We're going to talk about the sketching gear. So what do you carry? What are the factors that dictates what you need to carry with you as a sketcher? The very first question is, of course, what sort of medium are you using? Are you the type of more of the dry medium? If I say medium, medium means it's a sort of vehicle or equipment or materials that you use for your sketching, right? So medium is sort of the vehicle that you use to produce the sketching. All right. So one example of a dry medium is pencil. Another one would be pen and ink. So that's the simplest sort of medium that you can carry for sketching, and actually it's very basic. And then you need paper to draw on for the dry medium. Either it's a thinner paper or thicker paper. It depends on what you need, no? Or is it bigger? Or is it a sketchbook? Or are these loose paper that you would be carrying? And then time. How much time would you want to spend on a sketch? So if of course another medium is watercolor, for example. Watercolor takes a longer time to do, and it's more tedious, and it takes a bit more practice. And sometimes, for if you're a beginner, it'll take you a longer time. And then convenience. If you do oil for sketching, I mean, it takes a long time, and plus there's more equipment, so it's not so convenient for you to carry around all the time. No, and of course, convenience. Appropriateness also is into play. You cannot oil paint, for example, in a public space or a crowded space, not enclosed. You need open air for that. So okay, so different sizes then. Medium. Okay, so normally I would pencil first. Okay, so I'm a watercolorist, and so I have with me my pencil. Now the ordinary types of pencil is okay. So this is a clutch pencil. Okay, so this is more of the this is since my college days. So I bought this. I was using this during my college days. So if you take a look here, this it has you fill it up with a pencil lead, very specific pencil lead, and then it's sharpened. So this one is sort of like it doesn't shorten, of course, like a regular pencil, but a regular pencil, it's much simpler. Of course, it's cheaper. Okay, so this particular pencil is chiseled. I flattened it so that I can have thin or thick lines that when I need these. So this is an example of a dry medium. And then of course you have your pens. So pens, they have different types of tips. So the pen and ink types, you would have these are disposable pens, which you could buy in different with different sizes of tips. Okay, 0.3 or this is 0.3 and 0.1 millimeters. Okay, then carry around a very small sketchbook, which is an A6 size, for example. So this is an example of an A6 size. So very simple. Put it in your bag. It doesn't take up so much space. So this one is on one of my old Moleskine. It's already loose. I mean, this has been years. So just to show you, this is an accordion type. This is pen and ink, and then of course watercolor. These are mostly, this is during a concert. And then I like the accordion type is because, it's you could do different formats, either vertical or longer for landscape. So, for example, a simple landscape would be like this scene of a bridge. So, this thing can fit my pocket and you can sketch. Okay, of course you can buy a cheaper type of um, notebook that's blank. Mostly what I use are blank. All right, so I don't go for anything that, of course, it lined types of notebooks. But yeah, okay, how much do you carry? So of course, I already mentioned that something very small and very convenient is ideal. Okay, uh, and then for longer sessions, of course, the more complex your drawing or bigger your drawings, the more time you're going to spend and the more equipment. No, if for example, I do a lot of watercolors, so I rather do carry around a much smaller palette. Okay, so the stuff that I usually carry. Um, so I have two sizes. Okay, so this one is the accordion type that I showed you. So this is okay. So some of these are not my urban sketching. So a sketchbook, something this small, this size, is very much very versatile because you could practice your paintings, you could practice portraiture, even start experimenting stuff like you just paint directly to the page without penciling, and then practice coloring and the like. No? So this is convenient now. And then the size is, of course, this is another size. So this is a Tomoe River notebook. So it's more for fountain pens, but it's really thin paper. So this is watercolor paper, but this one is a thinner type of paper. So this is specially made for fountain pens, which is a bit more expensive, but they're very thin. So I usually do my notes here and also my sketching of my studies. So this is very thin. This is 45 grams. I think around 40 plus grams only. So it's very thin, but it can withstand watercolor. So I found this to be very convenient because not only that, it's thin, it can withstand watercolor. It's also translucent, right? So when I do some technical drawings or sketching, I can have references at the back. If I'm going to be going around in my daily carry, I would just carry this actually for me. And then another alternative also is about what at what cost? No? So these are disposable pens. These are like 60-70 pesos each. The thing about them is I also use fountain pens. So I'm giving examples of two different sets. One inexpensive, another one is a bit more expensive. So I use fountain pens that are inked with ink. I actually placed waterproof black ink, specially made. Okay, don't put Indian ink on your fountain pen. Okay, so that's a disclaimer. Specially formulated for fountain pens that doesn't clog over time. So this is filled with waterproof fountain pen ink. Okay, so this is very expensive. Okay, costing a lot more thousands of pesos. But then there's an alternative also for fountain pens. In which case, I'll show you an example of China-made or because you could order these things already quite conveniently. These types of pens, which fountain pens. Okay, so these are called vacuum-filled types of fountain pens. In which case, again, I'm using the same type of ink. Okay, so these are 200 plus. Okay, less than 300 pesos worth. Okay, so this particular brand is called the Wing Sung, and then you can really find this in Lazada or Shopee. So you could these are very inexpensive. Of course, the ink isn't as cheap. I bought a bottle of 50 milliliters, which is costing roughly about over 1,000 pesos. But it's worth it actually. 50 ml. Well, if you fill this up, for example, this is about 1.5 ml. So that's, if you divide that by the 50 millimeters, I mean, how many refills that you can have now. It's very, well, it's supposedly economically wise. I mean, you're not putting disposable. I mean, once you use a disposable pen like this, no, and you throw it out because it's already ran out of ink. It's quite difficult to refill, but whereas a fountain pen is refillable. So I have different types of fountain pens which have different tips, but mainly I advise the medium type of fountain pen tip. That's my advice. Okay, where do we buy waterproof ink? Okay, again, no, you could order this online again from Lazada and Shopee. I mean, like, for the last 2 years, wow, the online shopping experience in the Philippines has gone up pretty well, and I've been ordering some of these things now. Particularly, I use the Sailor. Okay, Sailor as in sailboats. Sailor is a Japanese brand, right? Sailor Kiwaguru, or okay, that's what exactly it's called. No? It's black ink. Okay, some other things like other brands like Noodlers. Here, I'm showing you, siguro, what are the things that you need, no? That really is, if you're going to go sketching around deliberately, of course you have to have a very much more convenient type of bag. So what's the viewfinder? A viewfinder is like so that you could isolate what you're seeing and format it in your sketchbook. And then, of course, dress up properly. Your dress should be answering that, no? If you can wear a sunblock also, if you're mostly under the sun, and then wear a cap or hat, and then protect yourselves from the UV light. An umbrella would be useful also. Of course, your hat, and then of course a stool, and a bottle of water for you to drink. That's be hydrated at all times. Okay, so normally, my studio setup for watercolor is with this. I have some 30 plus pigments that I use on my studio set. Okay, so this is my studio set. It's a lot larger. This is full pans, or what do you call this? This would hold up to some 3.5 ml milliliters of pigment paint. So these are from tubes which I squeezed out. So all right, so these are full pans, they call it. But normally, this is what I carry when I'm sketching. So this is a more compact type of watercolor palette. Okay, so this one has up to, I can carry up to what? Let me just open this up. This has been with me for the last 4 years or so, and this will carry roughly about 12 normally. So these are half pans. So if we compare these things, okay, they're half the size. This is 1.5, roughly about 1.5 ml each pan. So I squeeze these things. Okay, so it is half the size. Right. I put magnets actually on the other side of these plastic pans, and then so they stick around on metal pallets like this. It's convenient. So here is actually a watercolor. This one, the cap here, would act as a water reservoir. So I managed to put in 2 more pigments. So all in all, I can carry roughly about 14 pigments on this very miniature type of watercolor set. No? This one has a water reservoir. Okay, so this one carries like yeah, I inject water. I use actually filtered water. That actually is better than regular tap water in terms of more effective and cleaner actually for my watercoloring. So I pour this into this. So this becomes like a wash basin for me. But that's my watercolor set, right? So you could hold this up like this. So when I'm painting, I'm holding this up while I'm holding my sketchbook. Hold on, let me just manage this. So I'm here. This is open. I'm doing some paintings or sketching or coloring while holding this up like so, like here. And then I have my brushes somehow. Okay, speaking of brushes, siguro I'll like okay. So this is some of you would be asking, what's this? I mean, where do you get this? What is this? What sort of brand? This is from Schminka. It's a German brand, okay, of watercolor, and it's quite expensive. I bought this for roughly about 3,400 pesos back in 2016, 2015, I don't know. And then it has a reservoir. Okay, so it's really convenient for me because I bought this for the convenience sake. No, I love this because I can carry it. It's very small. It's like this, like the size of my palm, right? And it's this thick, so you can see it's about an inch or so, right? And then the brushes that I carry are these. Okay, so these are my travel brushes. I have 3 sizes. Okay, they're sable. Okay, the biggest size is this. It's the markings have already eroded. So this is, I think, I don't know what size this is. I think 12. Okay, so this one is from Escoda. I have 3 sizes. So a 12, a 6, or an 8. And then I have, no, so this is a 6, a smaller brush. Sable brushes are more expensive. Okay, again, my this one, tiny one, is synthetic. Okay, when you say synthetic, it's nylon for details. And then what about water reservoir? So normally in my studio, I have these very more expensive. I mean, it could be anything for your water container if you're doing watercolor. Like this one, I cut from drinks, and then I cut in holes so that my brushes would rest. Okay, why two containers? And then I just duct tape them. One for cleaning your brush, another one is for picking up clear water. So here you could see, how this is resting. If I'm using 2 brushes, I could use these to rest them so that they won't move around. Okay, this is quite simple, very inexpensive. You could do this with any type of bottle. So what about watercolor pencils? Okay, so normally I don't use them. Okay, my opinion of them, yeah, you could use them. It's convenient. If I think about it, it's like dry medium, and then you can color in these things. But normally what I like to do is this more intense colors that I use. And then especially the brands that I use, like Daniel Smith, I'm using some rare type of pigments that they only produce, which is mineral base, that produces these textures that I like. Color pencils, kasi it's more very light to me, and they don't offer much color range. And then also further, I'd like to mention, if you really are just starting and you don't have the budget, you don't know if you're going to commit to more expensive brands or sets, more sets, make it simple. Altoids, okay, so if you can find these things, you buy these things for these breath, for an what do you call this? These are mints, and then you buy these plastic pans. Okay, so this one, and then fill it up with watercolor pigments, and then put in blue tack, right? And that's it. So what colors? This is a limited color palette. Okay, so this is what I call a limited palette. So this one's I have yellow, a red, a light blue, and a brown. So these are limited palettes that you could actually just it's the simpler the better, you know. You could convert any metal mint containers into watercolor sets. So there's this one. Sometimes I carry only this one and my brushes. No, some of you, somebody mentioned water brush. You know, those brushes that have water in them, that contain them. That they're quite convenient. But what's been happening with them, no? With my watercolor water brushes, they're kind of been clogged, and that's why I they're not usable to me right now. So therefore, I still resorted to going back to traditional brushes. Eileen says that she uses a 9 by 6 inch sketch pad, 100% cotton, 300 grams per square meter. So 300 grams per square meter is actually very ideal, so that you don't have to stretch it or tape it on a board. Now you can still stretch it or secure it with masking tape on a drawing board. So this is an example of what really is a watercolor paper. This is a 9 by 6 actually. This is not 100% cotton. This is, I believe this is Montval aquarelle paper, right? Of course, this is much more inexpensive, but I'm not so sure about the current prices. I think it's 500, around roughly about 500 pesos for 12 sheets of 300 grams. But this is not made of cotton, but made of, cellulose paper, which is something that's not cotton. Okay, so I have these brushes. Okay, these are my brushes at home. But what I showed you also is previously is the travel brushes. But also, some of you would ask, what about those synthetic brushes? Actually, they're quite good. Actually, I use synthetic brushes, or the plastic ones, the nylon ones, as part of my arsenal for painting. Not just the Kolinsky, because when I'm doing details, much more details, the nylon brushes are actually the correct tool to use. Okay, watercolor palettes here. Yeah, these are plastic. Okay, what I do recommend are actually much better is porcelain. Okay, porcelain. It could be something as simple as one of your plates in your kitchen, a small platito. That's much more, because plastic, like the ones, like the example that I show you here, the one above is actually the pigments have stained it over time and it became yellowish over time. So this is something that I bought when I was in Singapore, and then it's too big at the same time for me to carry around or on my hand. A drawing board, something as small, it's very inexpensive. I think these are only 100 pesos each, 100 plus pesos. So you could have these as your part of your arsenal or your gear in sketching out. You have to carry them, or if you have a bigger bag, they can fit. This is particularly, I think it's an 8 by 12 inch board, and 100 plus pesos. Now you can order them also online. You can find them. Some of you would be asking, should you buy the more expensive ones or the cheaper ones? I started out with cheap materials, so that's how I started, with pen, pencil, ordinary paper when I was starting out. And then I started assembling also, the smaller tube ones, especially for student grade ones. I started with student grade types of watercolor at 100 plus pesos each. Practical because the pans that you buy, which is only about 1.5 ml or even less, it costs 100 plus. If you buy a 5 ml, which is 3 times more the volume of inside pigment, it also costs 100 plus pesos, 100 plus pesos. So you get the tube, and then you buy the more inexpensive type, half pans. And half pans are the plastic one, the empty ones are available at fully booked. You can buy them or order them online for a set of 12, 8, 10, 12 for only 100 plus or less than 200 pesos. Artist grade versus student grade. I think, as I mentioned, I started out with student grade type, and then eventually, when I could afford already the artist grade, actually there's a difference between the student grade and the artist grade. The artist grade is more vibrant, okay, because they're formulated differently with much more richer materials than in the student grade. The student grade are, to me, when I was starting, they were all actually okay, but then comparing it with later on with artist grade, I much prefer the artist grade. You get what you can afford, you're willing to spend, but they need not be the most expensive or the best. All right, we just want to do some practices. I think even knowing that you have the most expensive materials would prevent you from actually doing any sketches, because you might think psychologically that you don't want to, you're pressured to do a bit more better outputs. But if you have inexpensive materials, that actually makes you perform better if you're not thinking about the material being expensive. Anyway, so get what you can afford, and then what about the question of better materials or artist grade? Yeah, the quality is there, as I mentioned. The predictability also is okay. Then I mean, predictability, the quality wise, it's wow. There's a very tiny bit much better, but it's only a fraction better, not entirely way better. All right, but there are things that you should avoid. For example, watercolor, don't go for Pabeo, for example. I don't think Pabeo is a good watercolor set, because I tried it and then there was a bit more unpredictability in terms of, what I'm used to. I started out with Winsor Newton Cotman, which is the cheaper brand. The cheaper version of the artist grade of Winsor Newton, and they have this consistency of predictability that I'm used to. So when I switched to Pabeo, it was quite different. Anyway, in conclusion, no? The thing about your set, no, is keeping it simple. Get what you need. So not so entirely you start collecting all these materials and you end up not using them. All right. Get what you're willing to invest. Okay, so it's really up to you also with your budget on how much would you would experiment with. No? Start experimenting with other mediums. So if you're already okay with drawing your lines with pen and ink, you may want to consider also going into watercolor. Start with the monochromatic types, right? like just using one color, and then start to master the behavior of watercolor, how to manipulate it. And then what I advise you to do is to have a daily set. So this is what I did when you're just stuck in the studio with your things and you don't carry a sketch set. You end up not able to draw anywhere. I started carrying this set, watercolor set with pen and ink, pencil in my bag every day. So when I have my coffee breaks or just before work, I could sketch. I could do work. I could do art. And then you fold it up, and then if after work, for example, working hours, when you're waiting for the traffic to go down, you could, yes, you have the sudden urge of sketching or recording what you see. You have that power. You have that availability. So you assemble a sketch set that you can carry around on a daily basis. And I guess that's it. That's the presentation for this morning. I mean, I'm open now for any questions